Good morning. So our story today comes from a country called Burma. It's a Burmese folktale, and it's retold by Faye Morganson in her book, Ancient Stories for Modern Times. And it goes like this. There are 1,062 birds that live in the wetlands and the forests and along the coasts of Burma. And at one time, all 1,062 of those birds did not get along. All they did was argue. They argued all the time. They argued about whose feathers were prettier. They argued about where to build a nest, whether it was better to build a nest way up high in the treetops. No, some of them said. If you build it too high in the treetops, it's just going to get blown down in the wind. You should build it on the ground. No, some of them said. If you build it on the ground, it's going to get eaten by predators. No, some of them said. You should build it right in the middle. They argued about that constantly. They argued about how noisy some of the other birds were, or how quiet some of the other birds were. They argued about how quickly or slowly the other birds flapped their feathers. That's all they did, was argue. And all they said to one another is, I'm a better bird than you. 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 We're going to practice this. I want you to turn to your neighbor and say, I'm a better bird than you. I'm a better bird than you. I'm a better bird than you. Turn to your neighbor. I'm a better bird than you. I'm a better bird than you. Turn to your other neighbor. I'm a better bird than you. 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 Okay. I see that this could take off here. You don't seem to want to stop. You seem to be having some fun with this, but the birds were not. They were not having any fun. They were miserable. And one day, Pheasant was walking along, and he saw Crow coming towards him. And he knew that he was going to have to start an argument with Crow, because that was the only way they knew how to communicate. And so Pheasant started walking toward Crow, and he decided he was going to try something different. He walked toward Crow, and he said, Crow, you are a better bird than I am. Turn to your neighbor and say, you are a better bird than I am. All right. And something happened inside Crow's heart. When Crow heard Pheasant say, you are a better bird than I am, Crow's heart grew warm. It grew soft. He had never felt that before. And he immediately responded, no, Pheasant, you are a better bird than I am. And they stood there just kind of staring at each other, having this experience that neither of them had ever had before. Kind of this wondrous experience. And then they started to talk to each other. They started to get to know each other a little bit. And some time passed, and the next day, the same thing happened. They met one another, and Crow said, Pheasant, you are a better bird than I am. And Pheasant replied, Crow, you are a better bird than I am. And over time, the two of them started to become friends. The first ever friendship between the birds. And something happened. They started to notice the things that the other was doing. Crow noticed something about Pheasant. Crow noticed that sometimes Pheasant would stand very, very still. And Crow said, Pheasant, I noticed that sometimes you stand very still, and that is a really good way to keep predators from noticing you. That's really smart. Pheasant said, yeah. You know, I noticed that when you build your nest, you pick the strongest branches. That's really smart. Crow said, thank you very much. Pheasant said, have you ever thought of maybe picking some of the downy feathers from your chest and lining them inside your nest to make it a little warmer? And Crow said, no, I never thought of that. And Pheasant said, maybe you should try that. That's a great idea. And they started to work together and collaborate. And it was wonderful. Now the other birds, they were very suspicious of this. They had never heard of such a thing as birds being friends and collaborating together. So they decided to test this friendship. The other birds went up to Crow and they said, "Why are you spending time with that good-for-nothing pheasant?" And Crow said, "Do not talk about my friend Pheasant that way. He is a better bird than I am." The birds were surprised by this. The next day, they went up to Pheasant and they said, "Why do you spend time with that good-for-nothing Crow?" And Pheasant said, "Do not talk about my friend Crow that way. He is a better bird than I am." The birds, they didn't know what to do with this, but they decided to try it because it seemed to be working for these two birds. And pretty soon, all the birds in the forest started to be kind to one another. They stopped arguing so much. They started to notice what the others were doing and to get along. And that's how friendship came to the forests of the birds in Burma. Thank you for listening to my story today.